Welcome, everyone. I'm Sandra Bargman. A few years ago, I wrote and performed a solo show called The Edge of Every Day, which was an exploration of the rough edges and contradictions we all face and grapple with. The show hit a nerve, and the relevance of the topic would only grow over time, more than I could have foreseen. So, here we are. Real talk with real people, sharing stories and perspectives that spark provocative invitations to leap out of what's safe, on the edge of every day. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. We are live in the Hive, and thank you for joining me on this, the 23rd episode of The Edge of Every Day here on TalkRadio.NYC. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, and for those of you who don't know me yet, I encourage you to check out my bio on talkradio.nyc, or of course you can visit my website, sandrabargman.com, and please tune into any of my previous episodes with my inspiring guests. In a nutshell, this show is about celebrating triumphs, pushing boundaries, and exploring rough edges. Through conversations and shared stories with friends and colleagues, it's my hope that we can begin to understand our edges. And what I mean by edges is those places where we are fearful, those places where we're resistant to change, those places where paradoxes and contradictions live in our beliefs and in our understandings, both about ourselves and the world around us, those places where we don't want to look. Listen, we live in turbulent times, and we are coming to understand that life simply isn't black or white. It must be an embrace of both. And the more we recognize our own edges and get real about them, the more we can help others to do the same. And that, I fully believe, can help to change the world. So thanks again for tuning in. And without further ado, it is time to introduce our guest this evening. Nicole Ansari Cox is an internationally acclaimed actor, writer, producer, and an award-winning director. Born and raised in Germany, Nicole began her career in her teens in Germany, appearing in television, feature films, and on stage. Her first professional engagement was with the Repertory company Neumarkt Theater in Zurich. Following this, she joined the famed Théâtre du Soleil under the direction of Ariane Mnouchkine in Paris and on a European tour. Her next steps led to being a guest star at the Public Theater in Vienna in leading roles, multiple arthouse movies and TV shows, including HBO's Deadwood. She continued on to London's West End and Broadway, performing with her husband Brian Cox and creating a home base in New York. Ansari co-produced 2 feature films, Blumenthal, a comedy in the New York theater world starring her husband Brian Cox, and the thriller As Good as Dead with Andie MacDowell. Adding to her CV as co-producer and director is the short documentary Padim at PS3 about the arts program in an NYC public school, and the web series Messy. Messy has garnered numerous awards on the festival circuit, including Best Director and Best Dramedy at the British Web Awards, Best Web Series at the New York International Film Awards, and Best Web Series at the Chicago Independent Film Awards. As a director, Nicole has also worked with Rubin Museum of Art and NY Women in Film. Nicole's lifelong interest in the healing arts brought her to study and train with some of the great teachers of our time. She's a certified yoga therapist, a Kundalini instructor, a pre- and postnatal yoga teacher, and a life coach. And Nicole is the founder of Actors Rising, a program for actors and speakers merging the spiritual path with the creative arts. Hello and welcome, Nicole Ansari.
Hello.
How
That
much?
sounds so
And
much.
that's like
My
the tip of the
God.
iceberg, everyone. For those of you listening in, I had to whittle it down to that. Well, I so love reading off people's CVs. It's an enjoyment for me. I don't like to make it real quick. I like to include all the details, in which we're going to touch upon in our conversation. But it's a pleasure, just a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Sandra. I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, so Nicole and I met at a wonderful empowerment conference in New York City. I was about to say here in New York City, but actually, I'm not in New York City. I'm tuning in from my place in the Catskill Mountains at the Javits Center, and we took to one another and discussed possibly me being a part of one of your businesses that we'll touch upon when we get to your home business as well. Um, One of the great things about doing a podcast, Nicole, is I get to really dive in and do a lot of research, and I love doing the research on my guests. And I came away blown away by the theme that just runs through every single thing that you've been a part of. Everything I listened to, everything I read, everything I looked into was about your mission drive, is about uplifting women, is about social justice issues, is about knowing yourself more deeply, and that's storytelling, the theme throughout this entire conversation that we're going to have this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. They used to call me the social Nikki when I was growing up in Germany and playing second base for the Cologne Dodgers. I had the nickname the social Nikki.
Oh, that's cute. So you've had the from a very young age, you've had this activist streak. I mean, I'm sure you popped out of the womb wanting to act.
Well, it only took 5 years. At five, I declared this is what I want to do. Although I didn't know what it was, but I I was in kindergarten, and
Mm.
they didn't have the prop for the fire in Rumpelstiltskin, so the teacher asked if I would be the fire, and I stood up and did this, and the audience was going wild, and I said, whatever this is, like I could feel it. I want to do this, you know.
You plugged into being on the stage. You just the heightened sense of self. At 5 years old, I love it. It happened to me when I was 6. Like just being on stage and knowing this is where I want to be. And I love that you played fire. You played passion.
Yes,
Your first role was passion.
yes. I'm a Scorpio.
Well, here's my shocked face. I love it. So, so you, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on your background because there's so much out there that really talks about your background, and there's so much that I want to dive into. But tell us just quickly about a bit of your training and how you came to New York and your life.
So I grew up in Germany
Mm.
with a German mother and an Iranian father, and I knew I wanted to act from a young age, and they supported me in that. So at age 9, I had my first after school drama club, and we started to perform then.
Mm.
And age 11 was my first television, so I started to do television in Germany. And I went to Switzerland, as you said, started in Repertory, and all of a sudden I was bored. I did one movie in the lead in Germany, and I was bored and I couldn't figure it out. So I thought, let me go back to studying. And so I went to New York to study with Uta Hagen
Oh,
and
lovely.
the HB Studios, and also with Susan Batson and at the Actor Studio. And I found that this inside out acting, that the American way, not necessarily method, although I studied that, um, worked better for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And better than outward.
Yes, I mean, everything has changed these days, but in those days in Europe, it was still very much from the outside
Yeah.
acting. So it was declamation more than being it and bringing
And
it
feeling
out,
it and getting
magnetizing
the
it.
intention behind it.
That's right. So drawing people in rather than going out. And I think both are in the theater are necessary and important. And I learned first at the Stage School of Dance and Drama in Hamburg. I learned that I don't want to be a musical theater actress,
Yeah.
and then went into just straight plays and straight drama.
I want to get into the, before our commercial break, we have 3 of them for those of you who are listening in. I want to dive into something, your recent success off Broadway at the Here Arts Center, a play by Stefano Massini, who of the Lehman Trilogy fame, called 7 Minutes. I was supposed to have been in the audience and to have witnessed your wonderful performance, but unfortunately, due to COVID, that night needed to be canceled, and I could not attend another performance. But I did want to touch in on this because I was so intrigued and so disappointed to have missed it. Tell our audience what this was about.
So this was a production of Waterwell Theatre in conjunction with Working Theatre of Stefano Massini, who wrote the Lehman Trilogy. And it's a show about 11 female identifying factory workers who have to vote on a moratorium. And they have to vote whether it would be okay for them at a corporate takeover to take 7 minutes off their 15-minute break. And, it sounds like okay for a lot of them, including my character. I played the Iranian immigrant. And we had union workers in every show. It was a show that was like activism. It was pure activism. It was on fire every night. We were probably the most diverse cast New York City has ever seen on stage, and had great write-ups.
Fantastic reviews, just one after another. It was the ticket.
Yeah.
A great success.
Yeah, and it was sold out once people understood what this was. It was completely sold out, and we had to cancel a few shows because 2 people got COVID. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I wonder how long that's going to be with us. But it's our new normal, and we'll navigate it as we need to. But that's a good place for us to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk with Nicole. I have one more question about this performance, about the character that she played and what it meant to her, playing this character arc. And then we'll move into her award-winning web series, Messy, when we come back with Nicole Ansari on The Edge of Every Day. Stay tuned, everyone.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rains, but it pours.
On the edge of every day, and we are back with Nicole Ansari. So, the question that I wanted to ask of you is, as I was reading these reviews and so missing seeing the performance, but imagining you with an Iranian father and knowing that he is not with us any longer, of playing an Iranian character who has come from a country that is a theocracy and is now facing the downfall of the democracy in the country she's now living in. And I couldn't help but just be blown away by the opportunity and the internal work that you as an actress got to do with that particular role, the ravaging that we're seeing of our democracy with the threat of theocracy, with the threat of capitalism that is, not only ruining our democracy, but devastating our planet. Can you speak to us about that?
Yes, so my father passed away very recently, about 5 months ago, on October 17th last year. And I was with him when he passed. So it was, in a nutshell, it was absolutely life-changing. I will never be the same, and I was very close to him. I'm just going to show you his lovely face. It's
my tenderest condolences, Nicole. I so know. He's gorgeous.
Thank you. He really, this is him.
No.
And it was a profound experience, and I actually had an offer to do a movie, to do a horror comedy. And I decided against it, although it was a bigger paycheck, it was a bigger role in terms of lines, But here I had the opportunity to really dive deep into my roots and who I am and where I come from, and
Yes.
also do something that is more of who I am. Social justice is a very important part of my life. It's something organic. I don't have to go out and demonstrate to be part of that. And Mahtab, which was the character's name, was very Iranian. She really was an immigrant. She only came here 12 years ago, comes from a very different background than me. And so what the wonderful director, May Anteo, made happen for all of us is we placed all of our loved ones that have passed or that we wanted there in the audience. We took a moment and said, okay, this is where my aunt is sitting, this is where my father is sitting, and I had him in a very particular place. So when I when Mahtab finally speaks her mind at the end, which is a pivotal moment in the play, like a Deus ex machina moment, I would speak the word Iran, and everything is lined up. I came from another world. I left another world in Iran. Every time I said the word Iran, my tears would just, fill up in my eyes, and I could.
And your ancestors were with you.
Presence. It was a really, really profound experience, and all of the actors were just absolutely mind-blowing, and I think we're all friends for life. It was a very bonding experience.
What a communal experience, which is what we as actors look for in the theater. Those of us, well, I shouldn't say just those of us who really also consider it our spiritual path, but I think maybe the willingness to call it communal might be an easier fit for those of us who would call it akin to our spiritual path as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry I missed it, and again, my condolences about your father.
Thank you.
And is there some future plans for it before I move into Messy?
Well, we don't know yet. I was approached by somebody in Philly, but I haven't even spoken to the producers and the director about it, so we'll see.
Okay, well, we will stay tuned and watch your beautiful social media and find out.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to switch gears now. We're going to go to some comedy, some dramedy.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about Messy, your award-winning web series, Messy, that just had a screening. Am I correct? Down in the Village, at the
Socially Relevant Film Festival, and we also won an award for Ingenuity. I won Best Director for that.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, so let's talk about what Messy is. Messy was written by she's your friend first and foremost, yes?
Well, she became my friend. I really didn't know her much. We knew each other from school, from PS3, the school, the art school that I was talking about in the
okay.
short documentary I made. We knew each other from school, and she approached me. She originally wanted me to be in it. And when we read it, all the actors, all I could hear in my head was, I want to direct this. And I could see the whole thing in front of my eyes. And she kept looking at me because it was literally my eyes were going, oh yeah, this is how it is. And I couldn't help it. It was just natural. And the next day she called me and said, would you like to direct this?
Was this your first time directing?
It was the first time in a more long form. I directed 2 short films and, little plays here and there, but never a long, like
Long term, yeah.
several
And
episodes.
having to vision it long term with episodes and things. So let's talk about what's the premise of Messy.
Yeah, so Kate Warren used her own life and her own experience
This
as
is just
somebody who um, didn't yet get a divorce, but separated from a husband. They couldn't afford to live apart, so they stayed in the same apartment but started dating other people.
oh my God, comic gold.
Yes. So basically, she used the tragedy of her life and made it a comedy, a dark dramedy, I would say, because there are sad moments, of course, as well.
Absolutely. And really poignant. And I think really what struck me the most about it, well, I'm sure everyone, it's not like this was an unusual reaction, but the watching of a woman, and even strong women, even very, very fiercely strong, independent women can feel as if they lose themselves. And I would venture to say probably everyone that's in a relationship, a long-term relationship, struggles with this sense of losing oneself. But I think it's more prominent in women, that even if you're fiercely independent, you go through a point in your relationship where oh my God, it happened to me too.
Yes, especially if there is children involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was it directing? How did you enjoy? There's some fantasy. What I love is also it's woven in, and it's a really diverse cast. It's just side-splittingly funny. And so how was it to weave in these fantasy elements? Was that your idea? Was that part of the writing?
No,
Was
that
that co-created?
that was all in the script. It was co-created in the way that I directed it, of course, because Kate wrote these moments in the beginning, in the first 5 episodes. It's all in her head. After the 5th episode, which we haven't yet come to, she actually goes out and meets these men. But in the first 5 episodes, these men who are first on the screen that she swipes left and right pop up. They all of a sudden, hear a ping and there's a guy in the bathroom, or the plumber turns into the guy that is just texting her and sending her dick pics. So it is really about how technology and this new way of dating can infiltrate your life and mess with your life. Like she doesn't hear her phone, her son gets hurt, the husband is like, you didn't pick up,
Right.
while she was scrolling left and right in her,
Not doing her wifely duty that he has
not doing the motherly
that he's used to doing, but can't have from her anymore. Oh no, it's just side splitting. And the men, oh my God, the casting of the men must have just been a blast. They are hilarious.
Oh, you're talking about the catwalk, yeah. What
Yeah.
we call the catwalk, yeah.
Yes, indeed, the catwalk.
When she downloads the app and the men all appear, it's yeah, it's wonderful. This was all written by Kate Warren. I mean, she's really brilliant in her writing and also in her playing the lead, playing herself. And she's unapologetically funny and sometimes gross and edgy and
Earthy
earthy.
and willing to just put it out there. And her vulnerability comes through immensely.
Yeah, yeah.
Just the complete tizzy that she's been thrown into, and the mix, the masterful cocktail of vulnerability and anger and disbelief and turn on and sexual excitement. I mean, it's just intoxicating.
Yeah, it's about the reawakening of the sexual passion in a woman of a certain age.
Indeed.
And just so people know, it's on YouTube
Yes.
right now. Messy, the web series. If you type that in, you will find it.
Wonderful place for us to take a break. When we come back, we'll find out what the future is of Messy. And before we then move into Actors Rising and all of the spiritual work that Nicole has been involved in and the business that she has created. When we come back on the Edge of Everyday with Nicole Ansari. Stay tuned, everyone.
I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on TalkRadio.NYC every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.NYC. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it pours on the edge of every day.
And we are back with the creative force that is Nicole Ansari. We are back with the creative force that is Nicole Ansari.
Oops.
I'm hearing, yeah.
We're back with the creative.
Got it. All right. So before we move into Actors Rising, what's the future? What are you working on in terms of the next steps with Messy?
Well, we're hoping to be able to sell it to, one of the big streaming platforms, either as a concept to be redone. Hopefully, somehow we will be involved, um, or to raise enough money to make more episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, and have a
So
bigger budget.
we are on the, on the
You're on the edge.
we are on the edge. Yeah.
As every creative is in every moment, on the edge of every day.
Yeah.
Well, much luck with that to both of you, all of you,
Thank you.
all the creative team.
Could use it. We still have a Kickstarter if people want to chip in. Any amount would be great to.
Okay, and what's the link for that? Can you provide that now, or can you just send it to me and I can make sure to put it in the show notes?
I think if you do kickstarter.com and /Messy the web series, or I can give it to you at the end.
Yeah, and we'll provide it in the notes for the show. Terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to Actors Rising. And tell us let's start with your first inklings, your first spiritual yearnings that led you into, your trip to India and your yoga. I know that you and I have talked. We both felt very empathic and psychic as young people, so we can start there.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in, I guess, mysterious things. And I was very psychic when I was a child. I do remember at parties, talking to people and going, why are you not, why are you cheating on her? Like things like that.
Would know.
Oh, I just knew what was going on, or why are you being with other people? I didn't know what cheating was. I can't remember the phrasing, but that was very clear. And when I came into my teens, I was interested in astrology and tarot and all of this stuff. It was really, it was, what's her name? The actress.
Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. It was Shirley MacLaine's book that made me go, wow, what's going on? Because she got cured of a rare cancer by this guy in Brazil, by this faith healer, John of God. And so that got me really interested. I read Louise Hay and
Right, Shakti Gawain.
Yes, all of this. I got into all of that. And when I was about 18 and I went into the Repertory company, I previously was introduced to this group, to this Indian group with a living guru and meditation and yoga. And I just had this thing, I wanted to meet her. Because it bugged me that I felt that gurus was not for me, but at the same time I felt this strong pull. So I just booked a trip to India. I went there for 2 weeks and had a complete transformation. I did this intensive there, got what they call Shaktipat, the awakening of the spiritual energy, and really understood my place in the world in a way. For like a tiny glimpse of a moment, I became a speck in the universe, and the speck was surrounded by other specks that were all just filled with the most divine love. And I knew that was me. That was part of me and part of my birthright, and I wanted to experience that more. So I really got into yoga and meditation, very young age. And dare I say, I think it saved me in so many ways, in going in directions that would be just a distraction. And I was working with people who weren't into spirituality at all.
Right.
But experienced the first suicide of one of the actors in that company. A lot of them were alcoholics. And
they don't call it spirits for nothing.
This kind of started where I felt drawn to spiritual life. And in the beginning, it felt like there was always a split. Like I had to choose either the nihilistic way of the theater
Right.
or the spiritual path.
Right.
And with the years, what happened, I was always more interested, I would say, ultimately, in self-knowledge,
Yes.
in
Know
really
thyself.
understanding who I am and why I am here. And there were times in which I found it in the art where it merged, and there were times that it felt like, oh, this is really not what I need to be doing right now. I just want to go and meditate. Why do I have to stand on stage and do this silly play? So there came a point in which these two paths merged for me and were no longer a contradiction because, frankly, the world was ready for it.
Yes.
So I was no longer being mocked, because I have to say a lot of my colleagues mocked me.
Yeah, I thought you were probably woo-woo.
Exactly, for being woo-woo and, oh, she is an Indian
She's a
guru.
little
Oh,
flaky.
she's a vegetarian. No longer, but for many, many years. So I was mocked a lot in intellectual circles.
Sure.
Like, oh, she must be a simpleton. Otherwise, why would you be interested in that? And then the path merged for me, and I thought, oh my God. So I did, years and years of training in yoga therapy, really was able to handpick my teachers and sometimes explore for a long time, going to India, going on silent retreats and doing all this inner work. And there came a point when maybe altogether 8 people I knew had committed suicide, all actors, where I thought, the thing that we don't really work with so much is mental health in our profession. And
Well, it's also a bit celebrated. Mental health, like craziness, is a little bit celebrated and it's,
absolutely,
you know,
crazy.
uplifted. Oh my God, how creative is that?
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to help performers really find find solace, find healing, um, and
Grounding.
find grounding with techniques that I had learned over the years. And I thought, not everybody has the interest, has the time, has the money to invest in all of these trainings. Why don't I offer it? It came
Right,
out.
and with the perspective of how it can help with stage fright, with anxiety, with the things, with the darker aspects that can plague a creative.
Yeah, I used to suffer from stage fright so much that I almost gave up the profession.
Wow.
I would be frightened to death, literally feel like I would be mauled to death before I went on stage. The moment I was on stage,
It was, of course, you were at home.
I was at home. But before, the hour before was hell
Yeah.
every time. And once I started meditating and pranayama, learning to use my breath, I learned how to calm my nervous system.
So when did you start Actors Rising?
That was during lockdown.
Brilliant.
Yeah, during lockdown. Really, it was something. For me, really, the profession, and this might be for some people cultural appropriation, so I just want to put that out there. For me, an actor, in the best sense, an actor who's really has this kind of depth and dedication, is a shaman.
Oh my.
We are
Oh,
healing, right?
it is the ancient roots of theater. You are channeling the gods and the goddesses. You are channeling the collective wisdom of, yes, indeed,
Spirits,
you
the
are a shaman.
characters,
This is not appropriation.
archetypes, etc., etc.
Indeed.
And so this shamanic work you have to be a master really at handling your emotions. And not everybody is able to do that.
Yes.
Oftentimes the actors who are the most empathetic and the most lucid in their emotions really go to pieces. They don't know what to do with it. So we also never get taught how to get out of character.
Indeed.
The body can't make the distinction between real and fake tears.
Yeah.
That alone just tells you everything right there.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm playing a mass murderer, I'm taking on something that, could change my nervous system and can change my psychology. So you have to be really careful of what you're working with and what you're saying yes to, what energy and what frequency you are inviting into your life, and then have the knowledge and the understanding of how to let it go.
Yes.
With grace.
So you work with actors and speakers and people who want to command the stage or to have some sort of presentation or life or beingness on stage that wants to plug into that heightened sense of self.
Yes.
That is the ancient tradition of being on stage.
Yes.
And so it's an online community, yes?
Yes. To be honest, I started it, but I haven't really launched it properly yet. So it is something that I would
But it's a glorious idea.
Get to after the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes, indeed. Perfect. Well, the great thing is that this is an ongoing growth for this kind of thing. It never ends. This is the nature of know thyself, the ancient Greek maxim, it's never-ending spiral of knowing oneself. But that's a perfect place for us to take a break. We're going to talk about the Edinburgh Festival. We're going to talk about all kinds of wonderful things that Nicole's up to next when we come back on the edge of every day. So stay tuned, everybody.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.NYC, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.NYC.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on TalkRadio.NYC, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it pours
on the edge of every day. And we are back with Nicole Ansari Cox. Before we dive into what she's doing next, I quickly wanted to mention that April is National Volunteer Month. And I wanted to do a lovely little plug for a group that I volunteer with. It's called Vocalese Inc. Vocal, VOCALES, EASENY.org. It's a group that goes into elder care facilities and nursing homes. It's the best of Broadway singers and the cabaret that go into these homes and provide live cabaret performances of it and of music. And it's extraordinary to watch the elders who have Alzheimer's or don't get around, don't have an opportunity to see live performances at all anymore, to see them transformed and moved. And it's made me think of a movie that I had just seen in doing my research with Nicole. Movie, it came out in 2019, that she did with her husband Brian Cox and Bruce Dern, about a gentleman that goes into a nursing home with a woman who has to follow a woman that he has loved in his past, that is now struggling with Alzheimer's, that he wants to go and be with. And to have watched you, Nicole, in that film, witnessing that scenario and the beauty of the performance, the luminous performance of Carlene was just, and you were marvelous, and your husband was marvelous. It was just a moving, very tender movie.
Yes, yes. It was directed by a Spanish director called Martin Rosete. It's called Remember Me, and I think it's a really touching film, and it's also like a dramedy, I would say, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Very, very tender. But, those of us with aging parents who are facing Alzheimer's or who want to volunteer with that kind of a group, it's a very tender and timely message it was for me. And my father had Alzheimer's, so it was quite something. But so I did want to plug that and share that beautiful moment. And Remember Me is streaming on Amazon Prime.
Thank you.
So shall we talk about Edinburgh Festival and She, Her first? Tell us about that. Set that stage.
So last year in August, I was given the stage at Performance Space for the 21st Century, PS21 short. It is in Chatham, New York, in upstate New York, a state-of-the-art theater, absolutely gorgeous architecture. And I was given the stage, and the artistic director, Elena Sianko, said, do you want to do something? I said, yes, yes, yes. I can't tell you yet what, but I will create something original.
Yes.
I knew I wanted to work with women. I knew I wanted an authentic voice. I didn't want to do a play about characters that I invented. I wanted to do something that is more immediate, especially with the pandemic. And I wanted to hear women's stories, because our stories are emerging.
Indeed.
Finally. But, for thousands of years, they have been repressed or not been told, because history has been written by men.
Yeah.
And so this is a great opportunity for us to finally take the pen.
Take control. The time is, you guys are finished. You're finished. It's our turn. We have a lot to clean up.
We have a lot.
Why do you think I do this podcast? It's that same intention.
Yeah.
The stories, the stories are, and now is the time for us to speak up and out.
Yes, absolutely.
Glorious. So you have a cast of?
It was a cast of 8 women, and the way that I found them was also non-traditional. I wanted to work with the feminine. So I did it in the most feminine way, namely I just meditated and saw who popped up. Not thinking in terms of, oh, I need a woman of that age and I need a woman of that age, but I thought just, who has touched me in, recently, and who has a story that I feel needs to be told. So not all of them were 100% performers all time. I have a poet, Antoinette Cooper, who's an incredible writer and also performer, but she kept popping up, and she is a Yoruba priestess, which is of Nigeria, of her ancestors. And she was in training during that time. She was in a Buddhist retreat, and I kept poking her, like, "Hey, what are you doing? When are you coming out? I need
I
you."
love this.
And she said, "I knew that I had to be back on stage, but I didn't know how. And when you called me and I heard the message, I was like, okay,
Oof.
okay."
Full body chills.
So this is how it happened. Michelle Joyner, with whom I'm doing The Approach next at Shakespeare and Company in Massachusetts, she was a no-brainer. She's also in upstate New York. I mean, she's in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, but close to my house in upstate New York. And the other women I found, like this beautiful violin duo, Bean Lee and her daughter Liza Lube, and Kate Rigg. She's a comedian, and then we have Nova Scott James, who's an African American filmmaker and shapeshifter. She's really very witchy as well. All of the women had something witchy for sure. I would say.
Of course.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And my friend Melis Aker, who is a Turkish actress and incredible playwright. She's doing for Ars Nova, doing something for Ars Nova soon. So I found these women, and the way we worked was on Zoom. I prompted them in different writings. So let's talk about the body, what you have on the body. And then the speaking baton would go around the room. And it would become very clear what resonated with one person and what didn't.
Yes.
And so the stories emerged like this. I would say, being what you were talking about apology, can you go into that?
Yeah.
And so we had the monologues, and I have a deep love for 8mm movies. So I did some video art with their images. That was also part of it, and then the music, and in the end, we had a moment of crisis where I took everybody to a lavender field where we were being serenaded by gongs and bowls and sound healing. And after that, I went to the sound healer, Glenda Young, who's also in upstate, and said, "What are you doing in the next 2 weeks?" She was hired as well. So she
Perfect. So all of this is going to.
Well, so I created the concept while we were working together, and then I was invited to bring this to Edinburgh, to the Fringe Festival, to the Assembly Rooms, which is really one of the best venues there, and I'm bringing 3 of the original cast, and I'm casting the rest in Edinburgh. So I found because
that makes sense.
I knew people would not be available. Like everybody, is just
Well, and it's a lot to bring over there as well. Yeah,
a lot to bring over. So it's perfect the way it's working out. I found incredible musicians there. I'm also bringing a trans woman in from there, a Scottish African actress that I've known for many, many years, who has been struggling with mental health. So she is going to be talking about that. So I wanted to create something that is absolutely feminine in the way that it was created.
Yes.
And that the show itself is like a healing.
Is a healing. It speaks to so many issues. It teaches, it uplifts, it transforms.
Yeah.
And that is how we spoke at the beginning. That is the thread that I saw in all of your work. Just incredible. Just beautiful, Nicole. Well, we only have a couple of minutes, so I don't know that we're going to get to plug a bunch of other things. Quickly, let's talk about The Approach. Unless you want to talk about something else. You got too many.
Yeah. So next I'm doing this play called The Approach by Mark Mark O'Rowe. It's an Irish play. I'm doing it in an Irish accent, of course. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm doing it with Michelle Joyner and Lizzie Aspenleader and the wonderful Tina Packard.
Yes.
At Shakespeare and Company, with Mark Farrell being associate director and filming the whole thing. So we are
fantastic.
starting May 6th, and we will perform the whole month of May from Thursdays till Sundays at in Lenox, Massachusetts at Shakespeare Company.
Yes.
It's an incredible play, 3 women talking, really, it's about the patriarchy and how the patriarchy has kept them just bound, you know. The men are not in the room, but they're very present.
As patriarchy wants to be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we're working on that. And you're working very hard on it with all of your projects and all of your activism and your great, fierce spirit, Nicole.
And some wonderful men, you know.
And some wonderful men, indeed.
Really understand that the shift is happening.
And are comfortable and desirous of it. Comfortable with and desirous of it.
Yes,
indeed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm going to say where we can find you. Nicole Ansari, NicoleAnsari.com. And you can find links and interviews and all of the work that you are up to on your website.
Yeah,
I've also included Messy, the web series, a link that will be in the notes. And anything else that we've talked about, of course, will be in the notes.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Instagram.
Yes,
Nicole.
you are ubiquitous on, yes, you have a great presence on social media. And yes, so and it's your name. It's not something, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thank you so much for being on my show. It's been such a deep honor and pleasure to spend time with you.
It was just absolutely wonderful to talk to you. I could talk for hours with you.
Indeed, and we shall. I hope so.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening in, thank you again for spending this time with me. Remember, you are always at the edge of the miraculous. Until we see each other again next week, take good care.
Aho.
Last dance. This is our last dance. This is ourselves under pressure.